What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is a bit of a tier list. This is a bit of a different tier list. This isn't the way I would normally do these. This isn't just a is X character good, is X character bad. This is going to be ranking the predecessor heroes based off of their skill floors and skill ceilings. So for those of you that don't know, a skill floor is how hard is it to play a character the first time. If it's a low skill floor, then they're very easy to play the first time. A higher skill floor, they're harder to play the first time. A skill ceiling is if you were to play 1,000 matches of this character and get really good, like what is the difference between you playing 1,000 matches and someone on their first game? If it's very similar, then the skill ceiling is very low. That character is very easy to access. They are easy to play well the first time. You can't do a whole lot more after playing them for 1,000 games. So we're going to jump right into this. And this is a video, I like these kinds of videos. If you guys want to see more kind of weirder tier lists like this, ranking videos, then let me know. Obviously, I am just doing the predecessor heroes because I can't really put paragon heroes on here because A, I didn't play a whole lot of paragon, and B, not all of them, right, are going to be the same in Pred. I've obviously played a lot more Pred, so we're going to just do the Pred heroes. So starting us off, Countess. I think Countess is a fairly high skill floor. I think her skill ceiling is, I think it's decent. I think that this character, someone on their first game of Countess isn't going to do very well, but this character does reward a decent amount putting time into her. So she's a little harder to play the first time, and once you play her quite a bit, you can do some pretty nuts things on her. Crunch. Crunch, I'm gonna say Crunch actually has a pretty low skill floor, and the reason for this is that I think you can just press buttons on this character and you'll do fine. But I do think he has a little bit of a higher skill ceiling because once you get good at him, like once you learn how to play Crunch, you can actually do some pretty cool stuff on this character. Decker. Pretty low skill floor in my opinion. She does have some skill shots, but realistically, it's not that wild. And I think her ceiling, I don't think it's that low. I'm gonna say she's like pretty average. If you a good Decker is like a 500 games played Decker is obviously gonna be much better than a 1 games played. But I don't think she's that insane. I think her skill level is mostly knowledge based, and yeah, I don't think she's that insane. Drongo. I actually think this is one of the higher skill ceiling carries, but I don't think he's that insane. At the end of the day, if you hold left click, you'll be okay. I'm gonna put him right here next to Crunch. I think that this as far as carries go, he's one of the higher skill ceiling carries because of his ultimate, silence, that kind of stuff. You know, he has more to him than other carries. Bang Mao. Bang Mao is an interesting one. I think he's a higher floor, but like realistically, I don't think the skill ceiling on Feng Mao is that bad. Like I really don't think it's I really don't think the skill ceiling on Feng Mao is that bad. Like you have 2 combos that you have to learn on this character, right? Dash E auto shield and like dash auto shield E. You know, I mean like this. There's not a lot to learn on him once you get the mechanics down. I don't think his skill ceiling's that high. Gadget. I think Gadget is one of the lowest skill floor, lowest skill ceiling characters in the game. I think this character is very easy to play. You just stand as far away as you can and you press buttons. That's literally it. She's very, very easy to play the first time. She's very, very easy, like even at a high level. It's not, her skill ceiling is not insane. Like Gadget players, even if you are watching PCC, Gadget players are not good because they are doing something crazy mechanically. They're good just because they know how to position, right? It's not, this character's skill ceiling is not very high. Gideon, similar boat, actually, in my opinion. I think the skill floor on this character is very, I think it's pretty low for the reason that he has a portal that gets him out of danger, and that makes it really easy to play this character. I do think his skill ceiling is a little higher. I'm gonna put him somewhere around here. I think his skill ceiling is a little bit higher than these two, I think, but it's a little bit lower than Countess. Just because you actually do have to position fairly well on this character if you want to use your ultimate properly. But other than that, I don't think this character is that insane. Greystone. I'm not going to put him all the way in the corner because he's not quite there, but very low skill floor, very low skill ceiling. I'm going to move him. I'm going to move Gadget just a little bit so you can see both of these characters, but very low skill floor. I mean, literally press auto attack and you can play Greystone, right? The only skillful thing about this character is using his ultimate, and it's not very hard. Oh no, I'm low HP. Press R. I mean, right, it's very easy. Grux. I actually think Grux's skill floor is very low, but I actually think his skill ceiling is like up here with Gideon, maybe even a little higher. And the reason for that is that late game Grux is actually very difficult to play if you like, assuming you're not 20-0, right? Late game Grux is actually difficult to play. The positioning behind it is hard. When to use your abilities properly can be quite difficult. So I will put him a little bit higher because navigating late game on Grux can be quite difficult. But his skill floor is obviously hold left click, press right click. It's very, very easy. You get a lot of lifesteal from your passive. You know, it's his skill floor is quite low. Moving on. Howitzer. This is one of the higher skill floor mages in the game, I think, in my opinion. I think his ceiling is pretty good. I'm going to put him somewhere around here. To play this character at a very base level, like, you still have to be able to hit your E and hit your rockets, right? Like, his abilities are 10% harder to hit than the other mages in the game. Using your ultimate correctly, you know, you have a lot of safety in your kit between your E and your ult, but using it properly is not always, like that is actually not the easiest thing in the game, especially, like, using Boop aggressively, using your E aggressively can be very difficult. It can be very, like, risky if your positioning's bad, right? I think this character is one of the higher mages that's going to be on this chart. Polari. Another one. You're going to see a lot of assassins up here, and generally speaking, that's because assassins are mechanically more difficult. You're squishy, but you have burst damage, so if you get caught, you're dead, but if you catch someone, they die, right? So a lot of assassins are going to kind of end up here. I think Kalari's a little bit in between Feng Mao and Countess. She's a little bit harder to play, in my opinion, than Feng Mao. I'm going to put her on this side of Feng Mao. She's a little harder to play than Feng Mao, but I think that the max of her skill is a little bit lower than Countess's. So that's where we're going to put her. I think that's fine. Chimera. I mean, floor is in the ground. Ceiling, I think his ceiling is somewhere around here. I mean, he's obviously not hard to play. I mean, between the healing on his passive, the auto jump, like, the jump is obviously auto targeted, right? Like, that kind of thing, both of those things combine into a character that just literally presses right click and then holds mouse 1 and walks at people, right? Those two, like, he's a very simple character, and that's what he's supposed to be, right? Every game needs these kinds of low floor, low ceiling characters. It's just like how you get new players to be able to learn the game, right? Like, they're necessary, but Chimera is one of them. Kira, again, as a carry, she's just going, like, the carries are generally speaking going to be very low skill floors because you just hold left click. Like, that's the only real skill you need. Ceiling, I don't know. I'm going to put her right in the middle. There's some interesting things that you can do on Kira, like learning how your trade patterns properly, when to use your Q for the slow versus when to try and get more damage on it. Her ultimate, you actually need to pay attention for when to use. I think she's pretty like mid on the ceiling part of it. The floor, she's obviously going to be a little lower just because she's a carry. I'm going to put her like around here. I'm going to move Decker a little so you can see your face. Bellica. Now, this one actually might surprise you guys, but I actually think Bellica is, like, almost dead center for the floor, like, side to side here. I think learning, like, game 1 Bellica, there are things that you need to learn about the character, but I don't think it's insane. I don't think it belongs up here, but I do think her skill ceiling is actually a little bit higher. Because learning when to use stun aggressively, like, I think this character is somewhat higher skill level at the highest end. Once you play this character a lot, I think that you can, like, 1,000 game Bellica, in my opinion, would be much better than a first game Bellica, right? Versus, like, a first game Greystone can kind of do the same things that 1,000 game Greystone can do, right? That's the point of this. Oragesh, like, legitimately probably bottom of the barrel for me, like, going in the corner. Just you don't have to aim on this character. Her positioning is important, right? Positioning is obviously important on this character. Positioning is important on every character. But, like, legitimately, your your all your stuff is auto aim, right? You auto aim everything. You have a slow, you have a bunch of single target damage, you have movement speed, you have a heal, you have an ultimate that hits people everywhere on the map. Like, this might be the lowest skill champion in the entire game. Murdoch, little. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna move Drongo up a little bit. I'm just gonna actually space this out a little bit more. Uh, Murdoch's gonna be a little bit in between Kira and Drongo. He doesn't have straight up mobility, right? He doesn't have a dash, but he does have movement speed. He does have a root. He does have a knockback, right? He actually has a decent amount of peel once you learn to use it properly. So I do think he's a little bit of a higher skill ceiling carry. Not quite as much as Drongo, I don't think, but much more than Kira. So but again, the floor at the end of the day is hold left click, and that's not too bad. Uriel. So supports are another one, especially enchanter supports are another one that are actually going to be pretty high over here. So I think Uriel is I'm gonna put her around here. She learning how to use Muriel properly in the duo lane is actually kind of difficult. It's one of those characters where you would expect that this shield character, like in lane, is very defensive. You're trying not to take very much damage. But like realistically, because of her passive and the damage, your Q, when someone is slowed by Muriel Q, they take 10% more damage. Those two things combine to Muriel actually being a really good pre-6 aggressive support. So once you kind of figure that out, she actually is a little bit harder to play, but the ceiling on her is actually pretty high. Like, I'm actually gonna move her a little bit above Howitzer. I think a good Muriel is much better than a bad Muriel, and I think that accessing the character is a little bit more difficult. Narbash. The floor on this character is not very high. Press E, press Q, right? You have a single target stun that's pretty easy to hit. The ceiling on this character, I'm going to put him a little lower. I don't think this character is insane. Like, he's obviously fairly easy to access at a base level, right? You have to manage your mana. That's about it. You have to manage your cooldowns, right? Mostly your thunk, because that's the only form of peel that you have for your team. But that's about it. I don't think this character is really that insane. Phase. This one's kind of tough, actually, because at a very, very base level, Phase is actually pretty easy. You just pull your carry out of danger. But that's, like, I don't even know if that's the floor of this character. Like, I don't even know if that's where I would put the floor. I'm gonna put her somewhere in the middle here. And I think her ceiling is a little bit lower, just because you don't make plays on this character. Okay, correction. You can make plays on Phase, but the play that you make is pulling your carry after they get CC'd, right? That's the play that's being made here. So I don't think her ceiling is incredibly high. Her floor, like, again, kind of like Muriel learning to play more aggressive on Phase, because you have healing, you have a really long range beam, right? Like, those two things let you play aggressive in the duo lane. But I don't think she is super nuts. So I'm gonna put her somewhere in the middle here. Rampage. One's kind of tough. I actually think Rampage has a okay, correction. Now that Rampage has been changed, Rampage got a little bit of a rework to his kit. They made him less reliant on his rock. They made his ult a little better. They made his E a lot better. Right? I'm actually gonna say that Rampage has a slightly higher than average skill floor. But I do think his skill ceiling is fairly low. I'm going to put him down here because realistically, once you figure out how to aim your rock and how to ult into fights instead of ulting after you're half HP, like on Rampage, you want to ult going into the fight. You don't want to ult when you hit half HP, because then you're kind of just ulting to run away. It's not as useful at that point. But I do think that this character's ceiling a little bit lower just because he's very basic. But I do think that his floor a little bit above average. Revenant. I actually think Revenant is one of the higher skill floor carries. But his skill ceiling, I'm gonna put him somewhere around here. The ceiling on this character is not very wild. Obviously, you just hold left click for the most part. The floor on this character, the reason that this character's skill floor is a little bit higher is mostly just because you only have 4 autos. When do you reload so that you can like keep CSing versus hold your 4th shot to try and poke? When do you Q? How do you you have to learn your damage potential for when you can ult people and kill them, right? That kind of stuff. His floor is a little bit higher, but the skill ceiling on this character at the end of the day basically becomes hold left click. Richter. I don't think I'm okay. Richter is one of the higher skill champions in the game. The ceiling is definitely up here, right? But the floor, like, how hard is Richter to play at a very base level? Like, not very, realistically, right? Like, he has one difficult ability, which is Hook. But is his floor that crazy? I think his floor is... I'm going to say no. I'm going to say his ceiling is decently high, but his floor is not that wild. I'll put him even with Revenant. He has one difficult ability to use. The rest of his kit is very, very easy. So I'm gonna put him here. Sereth. This one is kind of tough because, again, she's kind of a Timmy stomper. So it's one of those where you don't see a lot of super high skill people even playing this character. I think her skill floor is pretty low, but I actually think her skill ceiling is like up here somewhere, to be honest. Like maybe not quite Richter level. I'll put her a little lower, but I do think it's a little higher than Crunch. Because you have damage immunity, this character, like just the fact that you have any damage immunity instantly makes this character 10% harder to play, because you have to time it properly and use it to dodge damage. If you're using your Q and you don't dodge damage with it, you're probably just going to eat all that damage when you come out of it and you're going to die, right? So it's actually kind of difficult once you learn, like at a higher level, how to play this character. But I don't think that her floor is that high, because at her base level, you can just W key people. You press R, you auto them, you Q them, right? You just W key. Sevarog. I think Sevarog's floor is actually pretty high, but I think his ceiling is fairly low. And again, so once you access this character, once you hit the point where you can hit his skill floor, and like again, his skill floor is mostly here because he has to stack things. You have to press Q and last hit minions. Like that's really the only skillful thing about this character. But then the rest of this character's kit is basically walk at the enemy team, right? He does not have any hard abilities to hit. None of his abilities are really difficult to use. You just walk at the enemy team, right? That's about it. Shinbi. I think Shinbi is a little bit above average on the skill floor. She isn't, like, mechanically, this character is not hard to play, but, like, realistically, no characters in this game are mechanically hard to play. But I do think her skill ceiling is a little bit higher, just because she does, like, especially, like, in the off lane or the jungle, right? You have to know when you can go into fights, when you can't go into fights, right? Like, when you can take, at least in the solo lane, when to take trades, when not to take trades, when to just poke. You know, I think this character's skill floor, because especially as a melee caster, it's just a little bit higher. Steel. Another bottom of the barrel character, in my opinion. Just easy as hell to play. He has one skillful ability, in my opinion, which is his E. His wall is actually a skill-dependent ability, because if you use it improperly and don't block anything with it, then the enemy gets to hit you for free. If you're doing stuff like, you know, blocking Gideon rocks or blocking howitzer ultimates and stuff like that, then the character, like, that one ability has a little bit of skill to it. So I'm not going to put him Morigesh level, but he is pretty bottom of the barrel. Faye. Tiny bit higher skill floor, just because you have to hit E's and you have to know when to ult. But, like, the ceiling really isn't there. Like, realistically, if you can hit your E, then you have accessed this entire character. I mean, that's it. That's really all there is to her. Like, I might even put her a little lower than Rampage, to be honest. Twin Blast. Hold left click. I mean, I think this character is beyond simple. I'm going to put him down here with Chimera somewhere. I hold left click, dash away when people walk at you. You have the easiest wave clear in the game. So at least as far as carries go, you literally just Q right click a wave and it dies. So you don't even have to try to CS. You don't have to like worry about wave states because you just perma shove. This character is beyond simple. Xeris. This one is actually, I think that Xeris' skill floor is a little higher. I'm going to put him like up here with Howie somewhere. Because I do think this character is a little bit harder to play than most characters in this game. I'm going to put him a little over here. He falls off pretty hard late game, so navigating late game on Xeris can actually be kind of difficult. So yeah, it's, I don't know. You know, this character is 10% harder to play than the rest of the characters in the game. Or most of the rest of the characters. Sparrow. Again, carry. Basically bottom of the barrel. I'm going to put her over here just so you can see some of these characters behind her. But she's, I mean, she goes right here. Like, she is hold left click personified. I mean, there is not... Her and TB are the left click heroes. Like, again, Sparrow, you could move her up a little bit just because, again... Well, you have to position well on Sparrow. Like, you could say that about every hero in this chart, right? Wraith. Mechanically, Wraith is actually difficult. He's one of the few heroes in this game that mechanically is difficult. I think his skill floor is fairly high. I think his skill ceiling is also fairly high. I'm going to put him up here. Mechanically, one of the more difficult heroes in the game. But at the end of the day, that mechanic is primarily aiming. Igster. I actually think Iggy has a pretty high skill floor, and the reason for that is this character's playstyle is unlike almost every other mage in the game. He is an anti-walk-at-me mage. He really is a peel-back mage. You want to kite away from people and keep doing damage to them. He's very good at that, but it's a very difficult playstyle. Like, most people aren't good at it. I think his skill ceiling isn't insane, but I'm gonna put him around here somewhere. I don't think his skill ceiling is all that good, but his skill floor to be able to play the character, the first time someone plays Iggy, they're probably not going to be very good at it because he doesn't play like the other mages. And Quang. Realistically, is Quang hard to play? I don't think so. I really don't think so because I think you can face roll your keyboard on this character and you would do just fine. He does have combos, and his skill ceiling is maybe a little higher. But I'm gonna put him here with Bellica and Shinbi. Realistically, especially after the change to his passive in this last patch, you can face roll your keyboard on this character, and I think you would do just fine. But actually accessing the entirety of his kit is a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult. Again, he's not super high on here, but. And that is the last one. So what can we look at from this chart? There aren't really any characters in this game that are extremely hard to play. That's the main thing that I'm looking at. A lot of the cast is down here. A lot of the cast is kind of hard to play, but once you figure out the very base mechanics of their kit, you're basically accessing the entire thing, right? Most of the heroes in this game are not difficult. That's the main thing that I'm looking at here. Again, Wraith being kind of the hardest hero in the game. All you have to do on this character is aim, and that is enough to make him, in my opinion, again, the most difficult skill-intensive champion in the game. There's obviously some dark spots in here. A high skill floor and a low skill ceiling means that a character is really, really hard to play, but once you figure them out, they are... that's it. That's all there is to it. And there's no heroes like that in this game. I mean, this is a hard spot to have someone even in League or Smite. This is a spot that would be pretty dark in both of those games as well. Same with low skill floor, high skill ceiling. These characters are they exist, but realistically, they are not very plentiful. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think down below. Am I wrong on any of these? What's your guys' opinion? Do you want to see more tier lists like this? If you do, leave a suggestion down below of how you'd like me to rank the heroes. But that's all I've got for you guys today. So as always, guys, I've been Pinzo. This video's done so. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.